She's ready to go. Let's go. That's a lot of work.
Trying to get him hooked up.
Man. Huh, that's a bummer. Okay,
Ain't working.
how about we call the meeting to order?
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, February 4th, 2019, 7:03 p.m. Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Moheski.
Here.
Patke.
Here.
Pettit.
Here.
Skornia.
Here.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Waterman.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated January 22nd, 2019? Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Moheski. Patke.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Skornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes. Having read the minutes, are there any questions or comments?
Make a motion. Approve our minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Patke, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated January 22nd, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Approval and adjustment of agenda.
Guess we just need a motion to accept the agenda.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion by Moheski, seconded by Heidrich, to accept the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the agenda. Thank you.
Citizens' comments.
Is there anyone here who would like to address the council? Okay.
Report of department heads, delinquent real estate and personal property taxes as of December 31st, 2018.
This is just the annual filing that we're required by state statute to provide. Franklin County collects our taxes for us per our agreement, and they provide this report to us. Does anybody have any questions?
I think I said this a year ago. It's an astounding number, and we have no way of collecting any more rigorously than we already do. It's up to them. We don't put a lien on anyone or anything against that, correct?
They don't put a lien on them, but with real estate, and you might have to ask Mark more specifically the legalities, but after so many years, then it goes up for tax sale, 3 years, after 3 years. And that number does significantly, when you look at the audit report, that number does significantly go down. This is exactly as of 12/31.
Right.
Then if you look at it 3 months later, that number goes significantly down to like 40,000. So their collection percentage, we always put that in the annual audit, is like between 96 and 98%. So eventually we get it, it just may not be by 12/31.
Okay.
And that's what the state statute asks us to provide, is the balance as of that point in time.
We rely on these taxes, and it's a shame that it doesn't get paid in a timely manner.
Correct. And then for business licensing, we do double check that for any businesses in town. That's part of a requirement for the business licensing, that the taxes are paid.
So if
So we always
someone-
double check that.
If someone goes out to bid for a job for the city, and they're behind on taxes, do we take that into consideration?
If their business is in town, then we have checked it to see if they have a business license. We don't necessarily check that, because it could be other departments, and
Sure.
unless they check with us or they check in the system to see if that person's paid. I mean, I would have to ask, but
I mean,
probably our bigger ones, yes, they've paid.
Right.
We
They're in
certainly try to
town
go ahead and
they're
check and make
local.
sure there's no outstanding invoices. We had a situation where we had a contract that was going to be awarded by you. It was discussed at department
Yeah.
head meeting literally on a Monday morning, and said, wait a second, if these guys paid, they better get in and pay if they want this contract tonight.
That's good.
It is a little reactive process. There is, the mechanism to check dynamically is pretty difficult to do. That is a fact. So it takes a coordination effort between all of us. I would say we do a pretty good job at it, to be quite honest. But Darren's example.
department head meetings can be long and boring, but sometimes they're very fruitful.
Well, I think that's advantageous for us to, someone who's delinquent. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Thank you, Mary.
Could we get a motion just to accept?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Moheski, seconded by Hydrich, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the item. Thank you.
Ordinances and resolutions. A resolution authorizing the City of Washington to apply for funding through the East-West Gateway Council of Governments to provide for the Jefferson Street roadway and ADA compliance project in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
Okay,
John?
tonight you'll see 7A, 7B are essentially the same STP application processes for 2019. We are applying for 2 projects, which is new for us. We typically only apply for 1. The concept or the idea that we're trying to do here is leverage our ADA transition plan. I don't know if you remember last year, we pushed to get an ADA transition plan, which we are one in very few in the St. Louis area that has that. So in order to maximize the benefit of that, it's good to go after those dollars while nobody else has those points available to them. So the idea was to put 2 projects forth, and these are 2 projects that were identified as a need. Jefferson Street is obviously one of the largest north-south streets in town. It is, the pavement is degrading. These are projects that are 4 years out, so we do have to kind of project these items out. This also incorporates a newly constructed sidewalk between Highway 100 and the Jefferson Street Bridge. There is no sidewalk currently today that exists on Jefferson Street. We did have an STP project a few years ago, 14th Street, that did put a sidewalk on the north side of 14th Street to help service the school. So this is just an extension of that to provide another connection from the schools to our downtown facilities where most of our sidewalks are. The sidewalks also on both the east and west side from Jefferson Street to 5th Street are not ADA compliant. The curb ramps are not. That's actually shown in our ADA transition plan. And if you notice in the priorities list of that, we were trying to leverage these 80/20 dollars to pay for these sidewalk repairs. So this project would be an overlay. It would be a mill and fill overlay, removing the existing pavement, and then adding that new sidewalk component, and then removing and replacing sidewalks. It is a pretty sizable project, pushing $1.5 million, but remember, it is a 80/20 cost share.
Are the sidewalks that don't exist currently, are they going to be on both sides? Or are they only going to be on one side?
One side.
And would that be the east or the west?
It would be, there are some topographic issues on Jefferson Street because the right-of-way is built essentially when the houses were put in. There's some grade changes that are going to be pretty difficult. I'm proposing the east side because that is where the 14th Street sidewalk is, and the less crossings that you have, the less pedestrian, with vehicle interface that you may have. But as you work down the hill on the east side, you'll notice there's some of those yards are pushing 6 foot sometimes, which costs money with retaining walls, things of that nature. So there is a chance that someplace at 12th Street that we would kick the people over to the west side because the grades do make more sense on that side. So that's all up for,
Yeah, because
that's a detail.
there is a part of a sidewalk on that west side, just south of the bridge.
Yeah, right by Big Boys Subs, I think, is there some there? So.
VFW.
VFW, yeah.
Yep, VFW does have some. Those are not ADA compliant, but whatever we do,
Right.
we are not allowed to pave a street anymore, and I keep reiterating this, but using federal cost share dollars, the sidewalk component it approaches 50% of the projects. So if we want to leverage those 80/20 dollars that are available to us to overlay our streets, which once again I feel is the highest priority, is to make sure that goods and services can travel via car, then you have to have these sidewalk components to that. Otherwise, the projects don't score high enough.
Well, I think the sidewalks are
Oh, yeah,
important,
for
too.
sure. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that number one priority is goods and services. Number two is pedestrian access, which is a form of transportation. And it drives the cost of the projects up. This project, 8 years ago, would have been half this cost because you would not have gone and replaced non-ADA compliant sidewalks because they're serviceable. Now, if you want to leverage those dollars, you have to replace them. Otherwise, the project is not eligible. So the costs, go up pretty substantially.
John, I understand the ADA compliances, but when you go and putting sidewalks on and you have to cross the street back and forth, I would be totally against that. I would try to do everything you can to keep the sidewalks on one side of the street.
For sure. And I totally agree. We do have an issue in town where the streets are, especially older streets, are built, they're very wide in some locations. Fifth Street, East Fifth Street is a good example where it's extremely wide, nobody parks on the street. So you've used up all your right-of-way for the road section. So where do I put a sidewalk unless I'm purchasing property? And it's a struggle for sure. So I agree that would be the ideal situation, but keep in mind, we may not have the land available. So then it turns into this next issue of somebody may not want a sidewalk there, and it could go, south pretty quick. So it's using the space available to us, and that's where I just want to keep it open, that we may be forced to do that.
Now, John, back in 2010 or 11, we had a contract like this we were going to do for Winona and Lexington for the sidewalks. Now, those people opposed of it. Have we notified, or are you going to notify all the people on the east side of Jefferson Street?
We would notify them. We have not at this time. This is the first step in that process. Okay. I would reiterate, though, I can't reiterate it enough, that if there was an opposition to a sidewalk project, the project would be killed. And we'd be forced to pave those streets with our own local dollars.
At that time, it was not, you could still go ahead and like I said, we
use
removed
that.
that.
Different monies for, yeah.
And we could not, at that time, we were able to still go ahead and keep the grant. But as John's saying, you cannot do that today.
It's a whole different, atmosphere that we're in with using federal dollars. So, but yes, we try to get out ahead of this as much as we can, let people know. I would give an example. We have a Beaker Studerman as a sidewalk component, and we went door to door to let the specific individuals that have this in front know that there is going to be a sidewalk there. Some were happy, some were not. We have the land. Quite frankly, if we want Beaker Studerman paved, I don't have a choice. Otherwise, well, we do. We could pay with our own monies. That's our choice.
You're right, we don't have a choice.
You have all.
Well, like Darren said, I remember at that time, we used that money allocated for, I forget where we put some sidewalks.
And we strategically placed them in the best location possible to limit, like by putting them on the east side on Jefferson, we're connecting schools. Kids walking on a street is not an ideal situation. And I think just using common sense, we can strategically put these in the right spots where they are limiting cost and limiting maybe the negative side that people may think that sidewalks bring. So,
John, I was asked today about when High Street would be done. Do you have an idea?
High Street is we're doing Beaker Studerman this year. High Street is next year.
Okay.
Next year's list, we have preliminary plans to MoDOT right now. It is an overlay, and it has a sidewalk component on the west side from 100 to, what is that, 9th Street, I believe?
9th?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not the entire length, but it is to Borgia, essentially. And once again, the idea was, when it was applied for, was to elevate that school component, get kids off of streets. It's about as bluntly as I can put it. So.
John, you mentioned we normally go out for one of these, and we're going for two.
Yep.
You're confident that going for two doesn't hinder us in any?
No, it doesn't. They're reviewed independently.
Okay.
I am not as confident that Westlink will get awarded because it does not have a sidewalk component. But we're trying to play up the freight component of it, moving goods in the application. And just simply having an ADA transition plan gives you points. So it's a lower tier project. I mean, it doesn't cost near as much. It's a strictly an overlay. It's pretty simple. There are other revenue sources for freight that I was just made aware of last week talking to Judy and Wagner with MoDOT that we would look into to get Westlink kind of fast-tracked. That project would most likely be fast-tracked anyway. It's a pretty straightforward project. But I'm not as confident. There's no problem saying that because it's all based upon points and scoring systems and things of that nature. But regardless, the preliminary engineering we've already done already, quantities, that type of stuff, doesn't hurt us because that just keeps us moving in the right direction anyway. And it is something that we need. Westlink is, again, one of those highly traveled truck routes that needs will need some work in the next 3 to 4 years. So,
And the application fees are refundable if they're not
correct,
selected.
not awarded.
Any other questions? Okay.
Need a second? It's a resolution.
Oh, we do, don't we? Okay, so we have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Well, we have that. Joe did that when he introduced it, so you'll second it. How's that?
Second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Waterman, to approve this resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the resolution. Thank you.
A resolution authorizing the City of Washington to apply for funding through the East-West Gateway Council of Governments to provide for the Westlink Drive Overlay Project in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Saltrop.
Introduced by Councilman Solentrup.
And this is essentially a structural asphalt overlay from West Main to Bluff Road with an improved right turn lane onto Bluff Road. That's always been problematic. That was not incorporated in the original Bluff Road grant. It will take some right-of-way to be purchased with a property owner that does not live in the city limits or does not own, that piece of property at the corner of the MFA is not in city limits. So we weren't able to get that into the original Bluff Road project fast enough, so it wasn't incorporated in that. But it will be part of this project if it is awarded.
I thought the MFA properties were voluntarily in. Those
No.
triangles. That never happened?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
that was part of the election back in
The election process,
2014.
Those were those triangles, those
Mhm.
spots, and they're
Correct.
not in.
Any questions or comments?
I'll second.
Very good. Okay, so we have a motion by, who did that? Solentrup, seconded by Patke, to approve the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the resolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Joe Mockins Ford, Columbia, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of a 2019 Ford F-550 truck with snowplow and spreader and amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. I think this is the item Tony was talking about earlier.
Yeah, we spoke about this earlier. The truck we are buying it on a state bid. The same with the plow and the spreader. We are buying that off the state bid from Knapheide. We did see their price, and we did do some price checking with some local vendors, and they were still came in a little bit cheaper. So we're satisfied with the vendor we picked.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Joe Mockins Ford, Columbia, Missouri, and to approve the purchase of a 2019 Ford F-550 truck and snowplow and spreader, and to amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri. Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Solentrup?
Yes.
Moheski? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the proposal from Canon Solutions America for 2 new copiers.
Saltrop.
Introduced by Councilman Solentrup. These are the copiers we talked about earlier. Any comments, questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the proposal from Canon Solutions America for 2 new copiers. Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Solentrup?
Yes.
Moheski?
Aye.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the bid from Baltic Networks USA for the purchase of antennas and radios for wireless system and approve amending the 2019 annual budget.
Scornia.
Introduced by Councilman Scornia. This is the item for the wireless system, talked about earlier. Any questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the bid from Baltic Networks USA for the purchase of antennas and radios for a wireless system and approve amending the 2019 annual budget. Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Moheski?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the bid from WashPC for the purchase of new server configurations, setup, and installation.
Whitmire.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. Again, this is the item that Mary was discussing earlier. Any questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the bid from WashPC for the purchase of new server configurations, setup, and installation. Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Moheski?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance accepting the purchase of a Siklu Ether Hall 2500 FX full-link kit and accessories from Baltic Networks USA and amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke. This is Lisa's item from earlier. Any questions?
An ordinance accepting the purchase of a Siklu Ether Hall 2500 FX full-link kit and accessories from Baltic Networks USA and amend the 2019 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri. Waterman?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Moheski?
Aye.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a First Amendment to Agreement for Water Supply and Sewage Treatment.
Sullentrup.
Introduced by Councilman Sullentrup.
This is the ordinance, this is an amendment to the agreement, as Mary stated. This was originally put before the council back in 2007 to go ahead and provide water and sewage treatment to areas outside the city limits that are within our service area. That agreement or that agreement was finalized, or at least it ran out of time. 2017 expired and has never been renewed. It did not have an automatic renewal system on it. It was brought to our attention. Mark brought it to my attention about a couple of weeks ago. We discussed it. We're fine with keeping the rates as is, but what this will do is just have this year to year. I think, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, both parties can opt out of this agreement within 90 days if they choose to, if something would come up otherwise, but it will renew every year after that until we make a change with the district.
Any questions?
How many,
Comments?
are affected by this?
We have, there are two major developments. One of them, and I apologize, I can't remember the name. It's the one that's just south of,
Country Lakes.
What's,
Country Lakes, I believe, is.
Country Lakes, is that what it's called? It used to have the big old
Used to be the wagon
wheels.
wheel.
Yeah, the wagon wheel out there off the highway.
It was Summer Hill before.
And then you also had another development that was down there off of Country Club Road. All I can tell you is I know I just received a check today for like $6,200 for the connections of all the connections we had throughout 2018. They have to pay us as a result of this. It's just a way for us to go ahead and do additional sewage treatment and water in those areas because that was the best available that they had at that time when this agreement was reached. And they pay us at, like I said, wholesale for that. We wanted to keep it on a year-to-year basis, just to the fact of, like I said, if something would change, we could go ahead and make those changes quickly rather than be locked in for 10 years.
So are their rates the same as city? No.
It's wholesale based on the, I don't have that agreement. Mark, do you remember what that is?
I do not.
It is a reciprocating agreement as well. We have the ability to purchase water from the water district should that be necessary. fire situation, you could think of any scenario, but it kind of goes both ways. And it's set in that.
I apologize, I don't have the rates in front of me, what it was. Had something to do with 750
Yeah, there's a million gallons.
water.
I've read it 4 times, but I don't want to say something that's incorrect on that.
I would just recommend you that you keep moving forward with this on a year-to-year basis. We can always go back, like I said, even if 90 days, either one of us can opt out of it. I don't see anything changing within the year.
Any other questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a First Amendment to agreement for water supply and sewage treatment. Waterman,
Yes.
Hatke,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Sullentrup,
Yes.
Woheski,
Yes.
Heidrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer, Scornia.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
And I will go ahead and get you those rates. I'll email that along with that existing ordinance that had that all spelled out.
Mayor's report.
Our next council meeting will be on a Tuesday, February 19th, due to the President's Day holiday. And I just wanted to comment, over the last couple of weeks, I've had the opportunity to attend several dinners in Washington, dinners and events, and over, I continue to hear what a great community we have and how everything seems to be going so smoothly, and what a great job our city is doing. And I don't know, I just wanted to share that with you, because I think we have a tendency maybe to take for granted, really. And we see some of the things that we would like to change, or things that we think need improving, but I've heard so many good things over the last probably 3 weeks about our community, just from all types of people. And so I don't know, we should be very proud of what we've accomplished and what we're doing. And certainly, it's easy to take what we have here for granted. We probably shouldn't do that. I don't know, it was just really fun. So thank you all to council members for your support of our community, and for your willingness to roll up your sleeves and move things forward. So anyway, so I appreciate you, and I know our community does as well. So just appreciate everything you do. So thank you.
City Administrator's report.
Just to follow up on the mayor's item, just as proof of that, the City of Independence, as Sal said earlier, is going to be here on the 7th and 8th of this week. They're bringing their leadership group of about 40 individuals to take a look at how we do business, and that's the City of Independence looking at the City of Washington, which I think is something to be said about that. On a second item, I have the pool survey closes tomorrow. Closes on the 5th. We have had close to 1,400 responses so far, which is a lot of input. We're happy about that. I think that's still the best way for us to go ahead and gather input from our community. And so our consultant will be putting those responses together and giving us a report back to the committee. I don't think we've got a date yet for the committee, but I'll talk to Wayne tomorrow, and we'll probably go ahead and get that set. And then I have a few items for you in executive session.
Council comments. City Attorney's report. Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Waterman,
Yes.
Hatke,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Sullentrup, Woheski, Heidrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Are you vote? We are moving.